The proof is in the pudding, and the pudding in this case is a football. Boom! Eat my goal! The goalie has got football pie all over his shirt.
Welcome to this episode of the Down the Pub podcast. On this episode, we are going to be looking back at the momentous victory against Valour last Friday. Of course, Gary's here as always. Happy Thanksgiving, Gary.
Happy Thanksgiving, mate. How was your turkey?
I didn't get to have any. My turkey dinner this year consisted of the holiday pizza from Pete's. It's like a place. The one in Bedford has a place called the Wedge, and they do a holiday pizza, and it's actually fucking really good. It sounds weird.
Huge divorced dad vibes.
I know it's so fucking weird. It's like turkey and gravy on a fucking pizza. It should be disgusting, but it's actually not too bad. So, and then they give you like a little cranberry sauce thing to go on top of it.
Pizza.
Yeah, it is totally divorced dad stuff though. It's like sitting on my own on a Saturday, just feeling bad for myself. But yeah. How about you? Did you get to indulge in any turkey stuff?
No, I'm a vegetarian, mate. I stay clear of the old meat.
But don't they call it like tofurkey?
I've tried that one. It's a little bit dry, that one is, and it comes in like, it looks like a Yuletide log, and then it's stuffed with stuffing, and it's not great. I tend to stay away from the veggie meats as much as possible, and I'd probably make like a lentil patty or something like that. But yeah, I did not do the whole Thanksgiving dinner thing, so I missed out, I think.
Well, it looked like the Wanderers had a good old hearty meal. Missy was doing her kitchen again today. I saw the pictures on Instagram. It looked fucking amazing, to be honest.
Yeah, it did. Yeah, I imagine she's a wonderful cook because she has a lot of repeat customers. Like the 5 years Wanderers have been going, I feel like every player has kind of been adopted by her as a surrogate mother. While her two actual sons sit in the stand watching the games as well. So
yeah, she didn't give them any turkey dinner. It was just the players that got it. They actually just got like a plate of beans on toast. So
yeah, they were like given like moldy bread and water in the corner of the changing room. Sit down, boys.
Just the players just throwing their scraps at them in the corner. Oh dear. Well, yeah, it obviously, like we were supposed to do an episode last week for the Forge game, and unfortunately, like bits and pieces came up, so we kind of didn't get a chance to do it. But we did get like a host of really good questions, which we will go over later on. But I just wanted to kind of get your thoughts real quick on that game before we get into the Valour game. So, what did we do right, do you think? Like, it was a really good performance. It was probably one of our best of the season, I thought.
I mean, to be honest, I've only watched the first half of it because I was at a wedding that day. I feel weirdly like emotionally disconnected from that game because I wasn't there, and because I'm aware just from like reading stuff and kind of the game state, the result, what it meant. That must have been an incredibly emotionally charged game, and I feel like I haven't earned it because I didn't go through the ringer with everyone else. Like my experience with that game was leaving my apartment to go to the wedding when it was 1-0, checking my phone just before the ceremony and it was 1-1, and checking it again afterwards and it was game over and we'd won 2-1. And obviously I was very happy about it, but it was kind of in the middle of all this other stuff that was going on. So I don't feel like I don't feel like I've earned those emotional scars that the rest of you did from that game. But obviously delighted we won it. And I'd say the thing that impressed me most from watching the replay was just how much we are on Forge's level now. I think like we've always had a bit of they've looked so much better than us pretty much every time we've ever played them at the grounds. And to be on their level now and to be stylistically quite similar to them, it was really interesting seeing how we nullified each other because I feel like us and Forge both kind of build centrally and want to play through central areas, and both of us kind of squeeze each other a lot during the first half that I watched anyway. Like, we were playing a high line, they were playing a high line. Our goalkeeper was playing very high, their goalkeeper was playing very high. So there was basically no space. It was all kind of happening in the middle of a congested pitch. And it all came down to which technical players could actually carve out space in that situation. Like, Lorenzo was the master at it. And
Yeah.
it became a game of details, and it became a game of who can find their spare man. Because when everyone's man to man on the pitch like that, when there's not much space, you're always just trying to find, okay, where's the spare man? How do we find him? And I feel like we just about edged it, and it's been great this season watching us go toe to toe with them, because they're the standard bearer, aren't they?
And being honest with you, like, there's not been really anybody who we've been dominated by, or you'd look at and go like, geez, they're levels above. Because I mean, Cavalry like finished 13 points clear of everybody else, or 10 points, whatever it was. But they, like, when we played them at the grounds, didn't look anything like we had to be afraid of. Like, I thought we went toe to toe with them. Like, it was very close games and stuff like that. So that's been a huge difference this year too, hasn't it? Like, how we've definitely closed the gap.
Massively. And I think a lot of that comes down to being kind of, it's always difficult to have these conversations, because it, like, to compare the past with the present, it's always like, does this sound like we're having a dig at Stephen Hart? And it's not that, and it's never going to be that. But like, I just feel like we are tactically a bit more sophisticated now, and we have better players as well. Like, the recruitment's really improved as well. So we've really closed the gap, and we're kind of, we could win the playoffs. We're in that mixer now, aren't we? We're in that bunch of teams that are all good enough to win it if luck goes their way and if they get the details right.
The only team that seems to have been able to kind of have our number a little bit has been York. Whatever Martin Nash does just seems to work really well against us. So like, obviously looking at the playoffs, like, we're going to obviously play Pacific or York. Would you prefer to play Pacific because York has kind of had our number a couple of times? Or do you not care?
I don't know, because no, I do care, but I don't know. Like, I know I care, but I don't know how. I don't know which way I care. Like, I think you can make an argument for both, because Pacific have beaten us at the grounds this season as well. They haven't beaten us twice like York has. But yeah, York just have this weird little hoodoo over us, and I only at the grounds though, because we beat them really comfortably in the last away game. So, and the Pacific, they haven't been good for a long time, Pacific, but I always worry about them more so when we're playing them away, to be honest. But there's something about them that I always worry about. Manny Aparicio is an absolutely wonderful little player, little dickhead, I think, but he's a wonderful little player. Making friends with another tiny CPL midfielder after I've alienated Ottley Bassett. But yeah, both of them are beatable. And the good thing is, finishing third means that they're playing at 11 p.m. on Wednesday night. So for whatever team we play, they're not getting much sleep Wednesday to Thursday, probably traveling Thursday evening or Friday morning. And you just got to hope there's that little bit of an advantage for us, because they'll be tired.
Yeah, I mean, it's I wouldn't know which way to go either too. I think I think I prefer Pacific, to be honest. Like obviously Ongaro hasn't had the season that everybody thought he was going to be, and I think that's been a kind of a little bit of a setback for them, that they were expecting him to hit like 10, 15 goals, whatever it is that you'd expect him to score. So that's kind of been a bit of a downer for them. But there's just something about York that whenever they come to Halifax, maybe it's the fact that they're just up for it because the grounds is full and it's a good atmosphere and all that kind of stuff, right? So it's definitely going to be interesting, and it's just wonderful that we have like the opportunity to talk about it, and we're not like Valour right now, like just looking at a wooden spoon, like Jesus, like they're just like kind of imploded. So, but the problem with, well, not a problem, but the thing with Valour is they've got some really decent players. They just like it's like they're not miles away from where they need to be. Like, the game was a really good game.
Yeah, it's really difficult playing there because the surface is awful. You can just see when players play like 5 yards square passes to each other, it's bobbling all over the place. So, I mean, especially for a team like us that likes to kind of play through the lines, it's less than ideal. So it's a really, and I think they've got like quite a few good technical players as well, who probably would rather not be playing on that surface week in, week out. So I think that is a hindrance to them, but it also makes it a difficult place to go because they're going to be more used to that surface than any away team is, because they probably train on it once during the week, they play on it every other week. So yeah, it's difficult to play there, and they're just a weird club, aren't they? They just feel a bit nothingy, and every little noise that gets leaked about them is never positive. Like having open warfare with their own supporters this season, like the marketing department and the supporters, it's just, and like I do understand where both sides are coming from there. Like, if you're working in that marketing department, you're probably like, I'm doing the best I can do with our resources. And if you're the supporters, you're like, well, I can't see any visibility for this club around the city. And yeah, it's just, I hope they sort themselves out. Because in the first season, they used to get quite good crowds, didn't they? They used to get like 5,000-6,000 sometimes. So you want them to kind of join us and Ottawa and Cavalry now, and Forge, who are getting kind of the 4,000 to 6,000 supporters in. And I think there's the potential there for them to do it. But yeah, they need a team that has a good season, I think, and then it might snowball.
Yeah, I think that the part of the issue is that because they're owned by the same group as the Blue Bombers obviously have a way bigger budget and a marketing budget. So they that stadium is usually pretty full when the Blue Bombers are there. So you've got like 40 odd thousand, whatever. It's a huge stadium, and then it drops down to 4 or 5 or 4, wherever it is, like when Valour are playing. So it's a huge difference, and it just feels like that the Blue Bombers are just like carrying the team, and it's like that's the kind of perception probably as well, that like if the Blue Bombers pull the plug, well then the team's going to go to shit and nobody's going to want to pick it up. You know what I mean? They kind of had to use that stadium, but at the same time, it's probably the biggest crutch that they have, because it just doesn't look like, as you said, the surface looks terrible. Like, I mean, it's always kind of sparse, because like now, like it just seems like just fans kind of spaced out along that side, so it's not like they're all kind of tightly compact together. So it's just an odd thing, but they do have some fantastic players, and it just always just seems like they're just kind of the way we were, like, you know, just a couple of steps away from where they should be, kind of thing. You know, it's kind of sad. But looking at the game, like obviously we came into this one with needing some under 21 minutes, so we started with 3. So I just want to kind of get your idea, your thoughts on how the 3 of them did, and obviously then we had a fourth come in when Geraldo went off injured.
How do you pronounce the young lad's name?
Vasconcelos. I think.
Vasconcelos.
Does that sound? It sounds right? Like,
yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah,
Vasconcelos. Yeah. I thought they all did well. Let's start with Armin Wilson. I like him.
Me too.
He's still. I think he's still playing within himself a little bit, but I like him. He's got a real ease to how he moves, I think, like a real smoothness to everything he does. Like, you see some players who carry their bodies really awkwardly, and they always look like they're 100% with every action they do, like at the very limits of their physical capabilities. But he's the opposite of that. He always kind of takes the ball smoothly. He's like quite malleable hips, so he can move quite easily, glides across the turf. Like,
malleable
he never
hips.
You know what I mean? So this is an audio thing, so you can't see me moving, but basically Shakira right now. But he moves very smoothly across the pitch. So I like him. He's a classy operator, and I feel like, and I feel like I reference his podcast a lot, the one you did with Jed, and his primary job at Wanderers being, well, not primary, but one of his jobs at Wanderers, working with individuals and noticing the limitations in their game. And I feel like he'll enjoy working with Armin Wilson, because he's a player with a lot of attributes, but there's definitely there's a lot of space for him to grow into as a player. So yeah, going into next season, I'm excited to see how he develops. And I thought he was very clean, very, very good again. Sorry, go on.
So, yeah, he complements Caligari really well. I think he's like there's always that kind of Caligari +1, and I think he just slots in there, and you wouldn't think that you're missing Mo Omar or Rampersad. I think that he just really slots in there and does really well. But as you said, it does seem like there's like another level for him to go to, and I'm excited to see him next year too.
Definitely, yeah. I mean, mate, if you'd look like Xavi playing next to Lorenzo as well, like he can make anyone look good. But not to take away from Wilson at all. But yeah, Coimbra as well. Kind of, I thought he felt a bit disconnected from the rest of the team on Friday night. But I love him as a player. Like I would, if I was the coach, he'd probably have quite a few more starts. And I imagine he's been injured, and that's why he hasn't got them. But yeah, I love him as a player. Very physical, puts himself about. And I think like with someone like him, you can use him in two ways, depending on how you want to play, because he is so energetic and does love to press. You can either say, with the opposition we're playing, we want to have a lot of energy from the start, press really heavily from the start. You'd probably use someone like him in that situation. Or you might say, first half, first 60 minutes, we want control. We don't want it to be chaotic and pressy. We just want to control the game. Therefore, I don't think you would start him. You'd probably start a Peruzza or a Morelli or whoever's who'd fit at the time. But yeah, I like Coimbra a lot. I don't think it was necessarily his day, which wasn't his fault. He wasn't getting found. Geraldo, it's a shame he went off injured. I hope it's nothing too serious. What was interesting with him was that he was being played as a right winger and Daniels was playing centrally. And that's the second game in a row that Daniels has started as a 10. And I think that's a interesting discussion point as well. Like what the coaches have noticed to kind of gravitate Aidan Daniels from being a right winger who clips in to kind of more of a true 10 who plays in the left half space, and why they've done that. And I think he looks good there. But going back to Geraldo, yeah, he looked great until his injury. And the young lad came on and just this ball of energy and life, and he seemed to be so delighted. Like I love seeing players when they don't look nervous; they just look happy. Like when he was coming off, the smile on his face, and before he came on, the smile on his face. And he's kind of at that beautiful age where the self-doubt isn't there yet, and he's just a kid who clearly loves football, and he made his professional debut at like 18, and just such a good moment for him. Amazing moment for his family, because anyone who's kind of like been around the semi-pro game or the youth football game knows how much sacrifice families have to make to get their kids to that level. So wonderful moment for them. And he looked really good. Like he looked fearless, and a couple of nice little bursts, and he reminded me a bit of Kodai. I don't know why. Kodai Ida from the first season, just like kind of a Duracell battery of energy, and like, yeah, delighted for him. So I thought the under-21s all did good, and I bet Patrice is incredibly relieved that no one's going to ask him about under-21 minutes again for at least another 6 months or so.
Yeah, it was kind of like they're almost like counting it down on the broadcast. But I just back to your point there on Vasconcelos, like Jimmy Brennan brought up the same kind of point as what you're saying there, that like he was like, you know, this kid, he looks decent, but he was just loving the fact that he was like willing to make runs, and the occasion didn't overwhelm him. He was just properly into it, and when he came off, like the smile was just that's what you could have, like that's the one of the great things about the league, is that, you know, just a kid like that is getting an opportunity to play professionally. Like obviously League One is amazing and all that kind of good stuff, but to actually play like a full professional at such a young age, and just to see him love every minute of it was really cool.
Did you see I can't remember if it was his Instagram or Daniil Henry's Instagram as well. It looks like Daniil took him out to dinner to Bicycle Thief, because he had a little plate of cake with Daniil, and it said congratulations in chocolate squirted right in on the plate.
Wow, that's amazing.
Lovely little smile on his face, and just like if that kid, if you could go back to that 6 months ago and say to that kid, like, in 6 months, Canadian national men's team central defender is going to be taking you out to dinner to congratulate you on your first professional experience, like, it'd be like, I'm dreaming, mate, pinch me. So yeah, I love that Daniil's done that as well.
Yeah, I didn't see that, but that's really cool. I did want to kind of just get your opinion on something too. Like you did tweet out, and I'm just going to read your tweet because so to make sure I'm not misquoting you.
Say, you're gonna get me in trouble again.
It's not getting in trouble at all. It's actually a really nice tweet. Massimo Ferran's most underrated quality is how often he's the first scorer in games. The ability to score the first goal, especially in tight games, is so important. lots of stat patterns in this league, but he isn't one. So, first question: what is it about his style of play that gets him into those kind of positions? And do you think that he's an under the radar player of the year contender?
So the thing with Massimo Ferrin is, like, as we talked about earlier, the way our games go at the moment and have gone for a lot of the season is there's no central space. The only area there's space is on the wings, because teams know we like to play through them areas. So what we do with Massimo Ferrin is we tend to tell him, you're basically going to get chalk on your boots all match, left-hand side, stand on the touchline, always be the free man. And normally teams are fine with that. Normally teams are like, okay, leave a player wide in space, because once by the time the ball gets to them, we're going to be able to shuffle over our defenders, go tight on him, take the ball off him, attack's over. But Massimo Ferrin's superpower is his ability to separate in those situations. So you play that ball into him in that area, and he can separate from the fullback. He can separate from the defensive midfielder who comes over and covers him, because he's got such good tight control. He protects the ball so well. Like, the way he receives the ball and angles his body, and the lower body strength he's got to accelerate away from those players is outstanding for this level, honestly. So by being our spare man a lot, and also having the ability to make the most of that, which not many players can do, means he finds himself in those sorts of positions a lot. And he always, like, I feel like nearly all of his goals have come from that hole. Like, in kind of the analytics world, they call it zone 14. It's like that hole just in front of the 18-yard box. And I feel like a lot of his goals come from that position. And if you kind of go through them all in your head, you're like, okay, the Forge one did. Yeah, the one against Valour did. The one against Ottawa. Like, they all come from a similar position. So, and that's because he can separate from the left-hand side. He can kind of invert with the ball into that area of the pitch. And he's a very precise shooter from distance as well. So he's the player we've got that breaks open games. And I feel like someone pulled me up on that tweet and tweeted back to me, like, is that really an ability? And I know what he means by saying that, because it's not like having a good first touch, or it's like kind of an intangible soft factor of a thing, isn't it? But I do think it's an ability, because scoring the first goal that consistently is different from scoring the third goal a lot. Like, I really do believe that is a quality, and I don't know how to like give language to what that quality is. I don't know how to define it, but it is a quality. It is an ability, and yeah, he's got it. He's wonderful. I love him.
It's having the confidence to take a chance like that in a tight game, because an awful lot of players don't want to be like taking those kind of chances on just in case like they fuck it up, kind of thing. Like, having the confidence. But as you said, like, I mean, that ball that was played in from Dan Nimick was a really good ball, but it was played at pace, and being able to control it the way he did, and then to finish it, like, it was top drawer. Like, that was a really good goal.
He's got to be in the player of the year conversation for us now. I think maybe we'll probably do this on a future pod, but in my opinion, it's him, Nimick, and Lorenzo now as three-way, and you can make an argument for any of them.
Would you think you'll see him on, like, being mentioned in the league itself? Because, like, I mean, they always just seem to talk about Lorenzo and Dan Nimick. He just kind of is always kind of an afterthought. Obviously, like, he's had a couple of like Gatorade man of the matches, kind of whatever it is that they do. But like, when they're talking about player of the year, they never seem to like just bring him up. But I mean,
he's fallen into that like Paul Scholes, Michael Carrick category of player where everyone says they're underrated. Like, that's the thing, like, but everyone says they're underrated, so therefore they are rated, because we all kind of. But he is, yeah, I know what you mean. He does, and I think because he's an attacking player, and the league media, understandably, have already got like kind of their attacking player narratives that they've spent the season building, and like the same way Dan Nimick is kind of part of the defensive narrative from the league about like the success stories. So to then insert Ferrin into that group would probably have to rewrite a few articles. But I think like the coaching staff recognize how good he is. The Wanderers supporters recognize how good he is, and I imagine there's some scouts out there who also recognize how good he is.
I just find it funny that, like, I was like, I'm not fucking rewriting this thing. I'm not.
Yeah.
I've been working on this thing for a fucking month.
They've got enough on their plates.
So we were kind of chatting like about what we were going to talk about tonight and stuff like that. And one of my things I wanted to ask you is like there was a spell during that game when we were like, they hit the post, and it was kind of almost towards the end of the first half where they were kind of putting us under pressure. We just seemed to be not able to get out of almost our own half. We were kind of just lumping the ball forward, hoping CANWNT could run after it. And then the energy when we came out of the second half was very, very different. So your Patrice Geyser, what would have been your halftime team talk to kind of for the team to come out and play the way they did in the second half?
I kind of, not tactically I'm talking here, but like kind of just on an emotional level, I'd have just, like, I put this in a tweet, but I'd have reminded them that they're playing with house money now, and I'd like encourage them to have a lightness to what they're doing. And I kind of mean that for the playoff games as well, not just the second half of that game. Like ever since we beat Forge, and ever since we knew we had a home game, that is targets 1 and 2 for the season have been met, like big time met, not just a little bit met. Like, so as soon as we've finished higher than last season, we've made the playoffs, and now we've made the playoffs to have a home game, I would hope that any kind of pressure the players were feeling would just dissipate. And I hope that they were reminded of that at halftime, that like, boys, just play with a lightness now. You've kind of exceeded expectations by quite a large margin, and just enjoy your football now. And I'd say that goes for not just the second half against Valour. I'd say that goes for this Saturday's game against Pacific or York, or whoever we play, because no matter what, like, don't carry fear with you as a team, because like the worst case scenario on Saturday is you lose that game, and that is not a worst case scenario, because we've already done so much more than we thought we'd do this season. People have fallen back in love with this football club. There's a wonderful vibe and mood around the team. Well, like, we're all, as supporters, we're all in love, aren't we? We're besotted at the moment, and that's such a credit to everyone associated with the club. So even if we lose, like, who gives a shit really? Because it feels like we've kind of got our team, we've got our club. So I hope the players are reminded of that, and they have a lightness to what they do. And I just really want them to get to the point where they're enjoying this experience and seeing it as like an opportunity and a challenge to thrive off, rather than something to feel stressed about. And I'm not saying in the first half against Valour they did seem particularly stressed, but I thought in the second half there was a lot more attacking freedom, and they seemed to be playing with a lot more joy. And kind of, to go back to more boring tactical stuff, I think after we scored, we were able to bring on some first team caliber players, like Mo and Rampy came on, adults came on to really solidify the performance. Henry came on. And when you've kind of built the squad that we've now got, you're able to do that, because we're not bringing on kind of second stringers. We're bringing on bona fide starters who can really shore up the game. And yeah, that would have been a shit halftime message if he said everything I just said then. But yeah,
I think you know, you're right. I mean, it's, as you said, like, you're playing with house money. It's like, everybody, it just kind of seemed like everybody was uptight and tense, and then when they came out, they just kind of seemed to have a bit of freedom. So I would say it probably would have been along those lines. You know, it's like everything, like in the playoff side of things, is just a bonus, because like I think everybody would have been happy if we didn't come last. You know what I mean? So the fact that we were able to blow that out of the water and set up our first ever playoff game at home, like,
I can't wait for Saturday. I'm
it's gonna be buzzing. Like how could, like, you know, there were, I feel like with Halifax, they kind of they latch up, like the media and stuff, like latch on to things because it's a good narrative for the league. But it is absolutely incredible when you think about it, that they sold out a game of football when nobody knew when the fucking game. To me, that's just incredible. Like, and it just shows you like how the city has really like bought into the club here, and obviously the great job that Derek and the marketing team do too, because it was just, as soon as that was like, we knew what was happening, Derek was tweeting saying like these tickets are going to go fast, and it just kind of gets everybody like, give a ticket.
I feel like I feel like the Halifax market is very kind of European in how they approach being supporters, and I've been thinking about that this week because, and God, I don't want to get flack for this, but like just reading some of the Ottawa responses to going out of the playoffs. And again, I'm going to caveat this to say that we're not perfect as a supporter group either. Like when we were shit, like there were people, and we all know who one of those people was, but there were people who were like quite vocally complaining. But I think like this is the first year really with fans in the stadium where we've been successful. Yeah, we have still kind of always sold out throughout the years, even when we've been a bit shit. But reading some of the Ottawa supporters' responses to the club, like there's a lot of like we deserve better, like, and it's almost like laced with a bit of a threat, like we might not come if we have a bad season. And if you like back home, like you get Sunderland selling out League Two for like 40,000 in League Two and stuff, don't you? It's like kind of getting your season ticket and going to the game isn't relying on success. It's just that's your community, and you almost kind of like have gallows humor about it. Like if you're shit, it's quite funny, and like we're just a bit shit, but we're still going to go every week. And I think Halifax has got a bit of that about it. So even when we were shit, people were still going every week. So now we're good. Yeah, we're going to sell out in 5 minutes basically because it's a hot ticket. So that kind of brings along all the more casual fans as well who really want a piece of it. But we've got a core of sickos, haven't we? Who like I'll be getting season tickets even if we finish bottom for the next 10 years straight, and most of us would. But I feel like maybe other parts of the country aren't quite there yet. But
I did notice that, like, and I think it's just I think it was more the fans were kind of pissed off with the way that the season had ended, because they were losing an awful lot in the last minute of games. They had a bunch of games where they lost in the last minute, and then they obviously got, even the one against York really hurt a lot because it's York and it's like close to where they are. And I think that frustration kind of boiled over like a little bit. So I think that's probably just it, because they've been through the ringer too, because they obviously were, when they were a new franchise, that like they weren't so good, and then last year they surprised everybody, and then this year they came back and it's kind of been a bit of a crash back down to earth a little bit. And I just think it's probably them trying to work out what the fuck happened, I guess, right? So
no, yeah, that's fair. Yeah, I was probably being a bit unfair there.
No, I don't think so. But one of my favorite football chants though is when a team is shit and they're like, you're nothing special, we lose every week. It's like the gallows humor is best. I love that one. So.
Or when they go 1-0 up and it's like, how shit must you be?
So I just thought we get into a couple of the readers' questions, and this one's from CB Keeper Guy. Like, we're going back a little bit here in time because obviously they're from like last week, but dodgy officiating once again for both sides. This is the Forge game. What do other associations abroad do to measure referees' overall performance? Are there remedial efforts to bring up the standards? Are CPL officials actually concerned? So, like, this has been a kind of ongoing thing throughout the season about the level of the refereeing in the league. And, we saw the shit show, like, in a professional league and in the Premier League with the Liverpool's Tottenham game. So, I mean, it happens everywhere. And, like, everybody here in Canada thinks that the video assistant referee is the answer to it, but it's not, as you can see, because sometimes they get shit wrong too, right? So I hate kind of picking on the refs, because obviously it's a new league, blah blah, but there has been some pretty bad games here, and like in the Premier League, they do have an ex-professional ref, I think, that marks them up and down and stuff like that, and if they reach a certain threshold, they get removed from certain games. And I think that might be a way to go, because like it's kind of funny, like there's no kind of comeback, you don't hear responses about any of the kind of bad decisions that we've seen, which I think doesn't help either. There's no open dialogue as to why this happened or apologies for mistakes, which I think they need to have some sort of like overseer of the referees and be able to come out and say, this is what happened, apologies, but you know what I mean? So I think that's something that they might need to look at, just to be a little bit more transparent, because it just seems that there was a time, it must have been like 3 or 4 games in a row where it was just like dodgy penalties or missed stuff and things like that. And I just think that they need to just be a little bit more open about the processes. How about you?
No, I think you said it all beautifully, mate. I can't really add to that. You know my thoughts on VAR and how much I hate it, so I'm not going to bore everyone with another rant about that. But yeah, refs. I don't think the CPL is any worse than a lot of other leagues. To be honest, every league is moaning about the refs constantly. It's just part of being a supporter.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like that's a lot of times it's where you go to. It's like it's blame the refs on it, and when sometimes you kind of need to look at like what your team is doing. You know what I mean? So anyway, I do think they need to do something next season just to kind of be a little bit more transparent. This one's from Spen Pearson. Who would be your starting 11 for the playoffs?
Oh, such a difficult question. I think if you polled everyone listening, including ourselves, 99% of us would come up with 8 of the 11. I think.
I think so too.
I think Jan would all say, obviously.
Yep.
Would all say Zach Fernandez right back. Would say Dan Nimick right centre back. Would say Kale Loffrey left centre back. Would say I'd say 85% of us would say Timoteo left back. Some might say Ruby. Would say Lorenzo as one of the sixes. Would say Ferrin as a left winger, and would say Aidan Daniels as either the 10 or the right winger. So the three positions, in my opinion, that are up for grabs would be the other 6. Would be the
who are you putting
10.
in there?
Omar or Rampy, that's the question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Or even Wilson. Wilson might have played himself into contention as well. I would say, like, I don't know. I really don't know. You could convince me either way.
I think we'll probably see Omar starting because he's generally been the go-to guy this season. So I think we might see him starting with maybe Rampy coming on if things aren't going so well.
I agree, yeah, because I can't remember the last time Rampy started. So whether that's kind of injury related or not, but they obviously are really big on Mo at the moment. And I think he's been brilliant. Every game has started for about 6 weeks now. So understandable decision, regardless of how much we all love Rampy. So yeah, you could convince me Omar would be that other 6. And I guess then the question is, who would you start up front, Coimbra or Peruzza? / are you playing Daniels as a 10, in which case you need to pick another right winger, or are you starting him as a right winger, in which case you need to choose out of Geraldo and Watson as the 10? So they're the questions. Personally, I would start, I think, I'd probably start Mo and Lorenzo as the double pivot. 10, I quite like Daniels as a 10. Maybe Peruzza off the right and Coimbra centre forward. But I don't know, mate. I'm back and forth, to be honest. I like Watson as well. If you're playing a team like Forge, where you've got to do a lot of running and off the ball stuff, then Watson as a 10 and Daniels as on the right. But yeah, it's really difficult.
I'd probably put Daniels. I actually prefer Daniels coming in from the right. He's really good. He's really good at playing as a 10, but I just think he offers a little bit more coming in from that side. And that you're right. You're just going to leave a little bit of a gap in the middle. But I'd probably put Carl Watson probably.
Yeah, I think I've just changed my mind, and I agree with you. Like when talking about Daniels there, like I like him from the right because he can drive into central areas with the ball at his feet rather than kind of receiving it in a pocket with people all around him. And yeah, I think he's more dangerous like that. But yeah, I could be convinced either way. It's they're good problems for the coaching staff to have, I think.
Yeah, and like then up front, it's kind of I think Keimer gives you like his work rate is phenomenal. I think he gives you that. But then like Peruzza, which I've been guilty of being like a little bit not enamored with him in many ways, but I actually one of the last games he played, I actually like watched him like from behind the goal, and he's so clever with the runs that he makes. Like he really drags defenders out of position and opens up space for other people. And I didn't really notice that side of his game before, and I think he does actually bring something a little bit different, that he's kind of a smart footballer like that. And I think sometimes we're very slow to also pick out when he does make a really good run. I think sometimes like we need to get our head up a little more, and because we do play side to side an awful lot. So I think sometimes just get your head up, and I think that's where Daniels comes in as well. He's like really good at that. So
yeah, I really like Perizza, mate. I took me a couple of games to kind of understand what he is. And once that kind of clicked with me, like you said, his off the ball stuff is incredible. Some of the runs he makes are absolutely fantastic. I feel like the level of technical security he gives us has gone up a lot in the past few weeks, which is completely understandable because he hadn't played much football over the past 6 months or so. So of course, like he needed a run of games for the first touch to come back. And I feel like he offers you different things at different times. Like he can play off the right and kind of cutting in on his left foot, but he can also play back to goal, like kind of soft feet, lay off wall passes, and he can also spin in and like make really intelligent runs. So I think if he'd have been with us since the start of the season, his stock would be really high because everyone around him would be used to him by now. And like I'm you know what I fancy is Saturday. I fancy a Lorenzo lofted assist for a Perizza one-on-one goal is my very specific prediction.
You heard it here first. Hopefully it's not a 5-1 loss, and that's
the consolation goal. Yeah, I'm still having it as a win.
So thank you for everybody for your questions. I'm sorry if we didn't get to them all, but it's just as I said, life kind of got in our way a little bit like last week.
Have we gone long enough for Dave?
I don't know. I did actually have one more topic just to kind of get out of the way before we.
Dave, I think we're at about 45 minutes, so we'll give you another 10.
Yeah.
We don't want to get in trouble.
So, big piece of news this week too was the news that the women's team are coming here on the 31st of October. I just want to kind of get your thoughts of what it means for the city and the stadium, but also it's going to be weird. I was just kind of thinking about it the other day, like, you know, it is amazing that they're coming here, and you know, to come to Halifax. I saw this probably like the first time a national team has come to Nova Scotia to play a game, blah 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 blah. But it's just so odd, like thinking of a national team playing in the stadium that doesn't have running water and shipping containers with dressing rooms. It's fucking mental.
I love it.
Oh dear, but it's definitely going to be a set. Like I'd imagine it's going to be like a playoff game here where the tickets are probably going to go in 2 seconds, and I think one of their season ticket holders got like a special
11th, I think.
Yeah. So, but yeah, what do you think of the news?
It's brilliant, isn't it? There's nothing negative you can possibly say about it. It's just brilliant, and like Derek, and I'm sure Derek and his team had been I think they've been working on that for about 6 years, haven't they? Because I've heard him mention at different events we've gone to with him about how he's tried to get them there before. And I felt like I might be putting words in his mouth here, but I feel like he said before that they didn't consider the facilities to be at the right level or something like that. So maybe they're going to install something temporary for the game. But yeah, just I'm sure that's been a huge labor of love for him and his team to get that game here, and just what a fantastic thing for the city. And like, I don't like this. It's ridiculous for us to have this kind of not debate on here, but like, because everyone listening to this is obviously not part of the Friends of the Halifax Common. Like everyone listening to this is a supporter of the club probably and wants a stadium there, but it just really hammers home once again, like how fucked it is that they cannot see how something like this is so much better than it being a muddy bit of land that hardly anyone used. Like we've got the national women's team coming to the city. That's amazing for the city.
Olympic winners coming.
Exactly. That's amazing. And none of this happens if this club doesn't exist and the vision of Derek and his team doesn't exist. And it's just like, it's brilliant, but it's also infuriating that their side of the argument is still given so much airtime, because how can this not be a wonderful thing for so many people?
But yeah, man, it's amazing, and it's definitely going to go a long way in convincing the city that Halifax is now a destination for for well, they should already be convinced because like there's the national rugby team's been here a bunch of times.
I wouldn't be surprised if this is part of a larger thing towards if we have the stadium permanently, Derek giving it the big sell to Canada Soccer for Halifax to be like the women's team's home ground, essentially.
It would be incredible, huh?
Yeah, I'd love something like that.
I think it'd be very difficult for them to get them out of Toronto, but the fact that like then they're doing Montreal and Halifax it's great news, and I think it won't be long until we might see a men's game here too, because you know if they're playing in the CONCACAF qualifiers or something, and it's like a kind of a smaller game, and we might see some of that here too. So
well, it'd be nice to see Dan Nimick back at the grounds in that case, wouldn't it?
No. Well, unless he's playing for Ireland, so I'm still trying.
I saw you fucking giving it like. Doing
I'm still like every chance I get, like I keep saying, I'm sure I piss him off, but like we need him more.
Well, to be honest, mate, if fucking Harry Maguire's getting into the England squad still, then there's a case to be made for big Danny Nimick.
Yeah, Dan for England. There we go. We will. Do you know what? Do you know what'll happen? He'll play for Ireland for a couple of games, and then England will take him. So
exactly.
So man, it was good to catch up. It's great once again that we're kind of coming in off a great result. Fantastic to get an away win, which I think we needed coming into the playoffs if we want to get anywhere. So yeah, man, I'll see you on Saturday.
Looking forward to it, mate. See you in a bit.
Cheers, buddy. Thanks.
Bye.
Bye.
Folks, please. Right foot, please. Time to drink up, folks. Get out. Out to box.